Certainly, seeing white lions is an incredibly rare and unique sight, whether in Timbavati Reserve or in Kruger National Park in general. According to ancient African tribal history, white lions were revered as the spirits of deceased kings by the local Tsonga people. In other legends, they are said to be the children of the sun god, sent to earth as divine gifts. Throughout history, white lions roamed the Timbavati area, located on the borders of Kruger National Park, for hundreds of years. The year 1938 witnessed the first documented sighting of a white lion in the area. By the mid-1970s, white lions were sighted once again in Timbavati, creating a major local and international stir. Many documented the story in books, the most famous of which is The White Lions of Timbavati by Chris McBride. Therefore, the discovery of new white lions in Kruger National Park was considered natural. One of these lions in Kruger stole the spotlight and became immensely famous, especially after appearing on the Wild Earth program, which gained global recognition. He was also followed by large groups of South Africans who visited Kruger National Park and captured photos of this remarkable lion. That lion is Casper, whose status rose to the highest levels due to his rare white color. The reason behind the rarity of white lions is that both the male and female must carry the recessive gene called leucism, which affects melanin levels in the body to produce a white cub. The probability of both lions carrying this gene is extremely low, making these pale-colored lions so unique. Casper the white lion was born with his siblings in the Shishangan Pride in July 2014. He had 4 brothers, 3 with the normal golden color of lions, and 1 who shared Casper's rare white color. From a young age, Casper displayed signs of strength, courage, intelligence, and affection for his brothers. It was only natural that he would be ambitious in building his own glory and forming a coalition feared by all in the reserve. Mid-2016 brought a major event when a new lion named N invaded the territory controlled by Shishangan. His eyes were filled with challenge and anger as he attacked Shishangan ferociously. The bloody conflict continued until it ended with Shishangan's death. After killing the dominant male, the new lion set out, as usual, to kill all the cubs carrying the previous male's genes, ensuring the females would mate with him instead. Casper and his brothers realized their father had been killed and resolved to flee the area, carefully moving away as fast as they could. Their early journey into exile had begun, wandering the plains in search of survival. But the unknown held many misfortunes. Along the way, the cubs entered the territory of dominant lions without noticing their presence. Those lions pounced on Casper's white-coated brother and killed him instantly. Casper was also injured in the attack, but managed to escape with his remaining brothers. They chose to hide in the fields, learning the tactics of observation and hunting to strengthen their weak bodies. Over time, they began killing different prey, including buffalo, which gave them the energy and vitality to continue. The 4 lions eventually formed their own coalition, named the Shishangan Coalition after their former pride. Casper's brothers were named Casanova, Mfowethu, and Footloose. By mid-2019, the coalition was roaming the plains, watched by the cameras of visitors, especially focusing on the striking white lion Casper. They repeatedly attempted to hunt buffalo, never giving up. But suddenly, 3 massive lions appeared, sneaking toward Casper, who was sitting alone with his back to them. Casper only realized the danger when his brothers ran toward him roaring. He fled with them just in time, but after retreating, the 4 lions, led by Casper, decided to turn back and face the invaders who sought to expel them. A bloody and savage battle ensued, with the young lions fighting with rare bravery. They struck with ferocity, ultimately defeating the 3 attackers and driving them out of the area. It was their first great victory, achieved without surrender. After this triumph, the lions gained immense confidence. They began roaming Kruger, seeking to expand, explore, and challenge other lions. After 2 years of wandering, it was time for them to settle and take over a strong pride. Indeed, they encountered the females of the Satara pride and began mating with them. By 2022, 3 cubs were born, the offspring of Casper and his brothers, all with the natural golden color. To this day, the coalition remains with the Satara pride, though no one knows if they will eventually move on to another pride. Casper himself was known to disappear for long periods before returning. No one can predict the end of this coalition's story. The coming days may bring many more remarkable tales about Casper and his powerful brothers, especially now that they have reached 7 years of age and are at the peak of their strength and vitality.
Cecil, the legendary lion and the true face of power and authority. One of the most powerful and beautiful lions in Africa. His death was considered one of the saddest moments in Hwanga National Park, specifically in the Matabeleland North region of Zimbabwe, a true story, and an amazing tale from the rich lands of Africa, teeming with the fiercest and most fiercely competitive beasts. So today, we put our hand on our heart as we recount the legacy and timeless legend of a lion who left his exciting mark on the pages of Zimbabwe's rich history. This legacy that ended prematurely. The story begins when Cecil, born in 2002, was tracked by a collar designed to transmit his movements and health status. From his upbringing to his youth in the reserve, he had a very prominent role in the place, with his great ferocity and the beauty of his huge black coat and golden eyes, to the extent that many travelers who love wildlife and lions came from faraway places to see Cecil. The incomparable lion, indeed, seeing him was worth traveling for hours to enjoy this living legend. Everything started when Cecil formed a new alliance with his son Xanda, enabling them to control vast areas of the park, to become the pride that they lead, consisting of 16 members of lionesses and cubs, and controlling the pride perched on the plains of the eastern region of the national park, which was called Linkwasha. The two became an unmatched force in the place, and despite the emergence of the alliance of the strong brothers Bush and Bubisi from the northern region. However, they were unable to wrest the place from Cecil and his son, who fought them with all ferocity and violence. You can imagine the size of the huge battle that began with roaring, then chasing, pouncing, and biting. Blood flows everywhere and loud sounds thunder in the place. The battle lasted for hours before the brothers were forced to retreat and leave for fear of being killed in a confrontation with the terrifying Cecil. Then Cecil and Xanda managed to stand their ground and chase the other 2 lions. Then they secured the area again. As time passed and the calm camped, it paved the way for Xanda to try to rebel and lead the pride instead of Cecil, the latter who made his big mistake, when he expelled his son, who began to become stronger and fiercer than the pride. His expulsion of Xanda ended in peace within the place, where Bush and Bobisi took advantage of the opportunity to try again to expel Cecil from the Linkosha group forever. And indeed, this is what happened, especially since Cecil was the only male in the group, so he could not stand against the brothers who did not delay a moment from attacking him and being satisfied with expelling him outside the group. On Cecil's long journey north through one of the areas controlled by the lion Kokore, at that time Cecil was thin, hungry, and his health was deteriorating, and he did not have much strength and ability to endure and confront. Therefore Cecil tried to ingratiate and submit to Kokore to gain a chance to form a new alliance with him. But Kokore rejected him and kept him away from his area in defense of his lands, and fearing that Cecil would kill his cubs in pride. Cecil returned to wander to find Jericho on his way, that single and huge male lion. Legend has it that Jericho's father killed Cecil's father in a violent fight that broke out between them, so there is a clear history of hatred between them. So naturally they cannot be friends, but due to the bad condition that Cecil reached and his desperate need to gain a new friend to rely on in hunting and control and save his life, everyone was surprised when he forgot past grudges and left those disputes and chose to unite strength with Jericho. They moved together to the Samalisa group area, where control and rule of the group were strictly enforced, for Cecil to regain some of his previous prestige and strength. But despite being a terrible force together, disturbances and internal problems began to appear, especially between them and the older cubs who began competing for rule and food. where they fought many battles at the time they ruled. The lack of food increased the severity of the males' temperaments during their struggle for the prey that was hunted and led to increased tension with the females. But regardless of that, calm returned after a period to gather the group and unite it after they discovered that their strength in their multitude and gathering is better than being separate and weak. The roar of those powerful lions announced the dominant power in the area, with their loud voices as Cecil challenged any alliance that dared to approach their controlled areas. That roar was also an expression for the females in the area of their desire to grow their pride and increase their offspring. So Cecil and Jericho took responsibility for the group, and the echo of their voices reverberated through the place to instill fear and terror in the spirit and entity of every predator or prey, and everyone will immediately understand the necessity of staying away and escaping from the claws of those ferocious, hungry lions. Kokore was not affected when he heard the roar of these two fierce lions, but he came to confront those challenging voices near his area. But when he saw their huge size together, he retreated and left his pride, surrendering immediately. Cecil and Jericho continued to declare control and challenge while they were looking for lionesses to continue writing their glory and establishing their own legacy in the area without boredom. In 2014, during the expansion, the two lions met three lionesses called Spice Girls, who saw in Cecil and Jericho the best lions that can mate with and produce strong offspring. By September of the same year, those lionesses had carried Cecil and Jericho's cubs to give birth in December 2015, 7 cubs, 2 males and 5 females. That was a happy family for that group of lions. For a while, they lived an ideal life in the Somalisa group. Pride grew in it to 12 individuals. But with the increase of pride, responsibility increases, meaning that they have to struggle for the place and food. So they needed to expand the area again, where Jericho ventured north to an area called Kennedy, near the railway line. And behind the line is the forest, also known as the hunting area, which contains some lions and lionesses. Jericho found on his way a lioness named Kathy, who was old and alone. Jericho informed Cecil that he had found a larger area. Cecil immediately moved north to Kennedy, where Cecil saw Kathy and was happy with her presence, especially not for mating, but for raising young cubs. They stayed with Kathy for a long time before they decided to return to their previous group for a short period and then return overnight to Kathy. All this happened before disaster struck the lion Cecil, where the plot was being hatched to monopolize him and hunt him. Indeed, on the night of July 1, 2015, Cecil was lured outside the protected area, where 2 hunters from the area participated with an American trophy hunter named Walter Palmer in tracking and killing the lion Cecil through a sharp arrow that led to his death after leaving him for long hours of suffering. Cecil was 13 years old before his death, while Palmer had bought a hunting permit so as not to be legally accused of any crime. The authorities in Zimbabwe said that after killing Cecil, he remained free to visit the country as a tourist, while the other hunters, Sons of Zimbabwe, the hunting guide and the owner of the farm where the hunting operation took place, were arrested. They were imprisoned for a short period, before the charge was eventually dropped against them. This killing attracted the attention of the international media and caused great anger among advocates and animal conservation associations who used to come from abroad to see this powerful lion, and Palmer received many criticisms and negative reactions from politicians and celebrities. In the end, Cecil left behind a great legacy, and many genes are still alive that will take over the pride and rule the area for sure at the earliest opportunity, while Jericho remained in the north and did not return to defend the pride, where he stayed with Kathy before 2 other lionesses joined him, and he mated with them and became the father of 5 new cubs. In 2021, National Geographic Channels broadcast the documentary film produced by wildlife filmmaker Peter Lamberti from Lion Mountain Media about the lion Cecil and his life history full of dominance and power.
In the heart of the sprawling wilderness on the edges of Sabi Sand, where golden plains intersect with dry riverbeds, and where the night is not merely darkness, but an open stage for roaring and predation, a lion was born, unlike any of his kind. There, amid a pride known as the Airfield Pride, he came into the world. A cub with stern features, his thick mane grew unusually fast, and his gaze hid behind it silent death and a terrifying soul. That cub would come to be known as Mr. T, or the devil who drowned the Savannah in blood and rage. He was born around 2001 or 2002. Only a few years would separate him from the inevitable expulsion that awaited all male lions when they matured. At first, he was just one of the pride's sons, playing with his brothers, learning the art of hunting from the pride's mothers, leaping around his dominant father's body at the time. But the jungle hides its secrets, and fate always prepares those who may become kings, or executioners. When he reached the age of 3, the moment came, and he was expelled from the pride. There was no longer room for young males in the pride's embrace, for they had become a threat. He and his 5 brothers, Makulu, Kinky Tail, Dreadlocks, Rasta, and Pretty Boy, set out to begin a life of wandering. 6 nomadic males, 6 hungry lions, 6 hearts that had not yet tasted the meaning of power. And from here, everything began, from wandering to the throne of kingship. It was a turning point in their lives in 2004, after they were driven out of their safe place into the wilderness of fear and hunger. They survived on whatever they could find, hunted small prey, and roamed the edges of territories controlled by stronger males. But something was forming within them. Strength, unity, and ambition that exceeded the limits of any alliance the region had known. By 2006, they had grown. Thick black manes framed their solid rock-like bodies and dagger-like teeth. They were no longer mere intruders. For them, it was time for war. The 6 announced their presence with roars that shook the savannah. At first, it was a shock. Who were they? But soon, everyone knew the answer. They were the Mapogos, the name that would sow terror across all of Sabi Sand. They moved like a storm. If they encountered a single dominant male, he knew well that his death had come. There was no chance against such an onslaught. The confrontation was not fair. It was an execution. 6 bodies attacked at once. The victim thrown to the ground, his flesh torn until nothing remained but screams carried away by the wind. And they did not stop there. They hunted down cubs. Most did not survive. Every cub that did not belong to them was sentenced to death. The mothers who tried to defend them tasted pain and destruction. That was the law of the Mapogos. Either you are of our bloodline, or you are erased from existence. With such ruthless ferocity, they extended their control over nearly half the reserve within months. Never before had modern history witnessed an alliance of such scale and brutality. The Devil's Feast. Though there were 6 Mapogos, one personality shone above all. Mr. T, the killer lion known for his thick, dark mane that covered his face like a black mask. But it was not the mane that made rangers and visitors call him the devil. It was his actions. He was unpredictable. He attacked suddenly, without reason, and tore apart his opponents with savagery even after they were dead. He wasn't merely a killer. He enjoyed the moment of slaughter. Although he loved all his brothers, his bond with Kinky Tail was special. They were an inseparable duo, hunting together, killing together, protecting each other's backs. When Mr. T surrendered to his madness, nothing could stop him, not even his brother's cubs. More than 11 cubs were killed by his fearsome jaws, slowly, cruelly, and without reason. None of his brothers intervened, as if they had accepted the devil among them. Thus, Mr. T became not just another lion, but a symbol of terror, a dark legend told in every camp and every safari. The Brothers Division. Despite the Mapogos' might, cracks began to appear within, especially between Makulu, the eldest brother, naturally a leader, strong and dominant, and his brother, Mr. T, the fiercest of them all, who refused to be subordinate. In 2008, repeated clashes broke out between them. In one of the fiercest, Makulu bit into Mr. T's leg with such force it nearly crippled him. Makulu won that round, But the psychological wound was deeper than the physical one. After that battle, Mr. T split from his 4 other brothers. But he did not leave alone. He took with him his closest brother, Kinky Tail. The two moved east to establish their own domain, away from their brothers in the west. This split was not just a tactical decision. It was the beginning of a new era. Thus, the alliance divided into 2 factions, Mr. T and Kinky Tail in the east, Makulu, Pretty Boy, Dreadlocks, and Rasta in the west. That division sparked the bloodiest wars Sabi Sand had ever seen. The new enemy, the Majingilanes. In 2010, a threat emerged unlike any before. 5 young males in their prime, known as the Majingilanes. Their bodies were solid and explosive, their eyes fearless. They sought territory, and none was greater than the lands of the Mapogos. They began their challenge, roaring at the borders, marking trees and rocks with their scent. The message was clear: we are here, and we are coming. Mr. T and Kinky Tail did not retreat. On the contrary, they accepted the challenge with arrogance. They had never lost a fight. Why fear now? On June 8, 2010, the spark ignited. In a dense forest, the brothers encountered a lone Majingilane male. He tried to flee, but they caught him, pinned him down, and tore him apart. He was fierce, fighting until his last breath, leaving scars on Mr. T's face and Kinky Tail's paw. But the result was inevitable. One Majingilane was dead. Yet in the jungle, it was known. Blood begets blood. That night, vengeance was set in motion. The tragedy of Kinky Tail. Under the cover of darkness, the Majingilanes moved, furious and seeking revenge. They searched relentlessly until they succeeded in isolating Kinky Tail, who was wounded and limping from the previous battle. Still, he refused to retreat. He faced them, 4 against 1. He fought fiercely, injuring and pushing them back, but eventually, he fell beneath their brutal strikes and biting jaws. They pinned him to the ground and tore him apart mercilessly. By the time Mr. T arrived, it was too late. He saw his brother, his other half, being ripped apart between the enemy's jaws. He tried to attack and save him, but the odds were against him. They chased him away, forcing him to flee. When he returned, everything was over. Kinky Tail was nothing but a shredded corpse. That moment changed Mr. T forever. He was no longer the same lion. He became darker, filled with hatred and fury, as if Kinky Tail's soul had turned into boiling blood in his chest. For 2 whole days, he stood at the eastern borders roaring for his dead brother without pause. His mourning echoed through the wilderness. But the jungle shows no mercy, and he had to go on. The Devil Unleashed. Mr. T returned to his brothers in the west, but something inside him had shattered. He was no longer just a powerful king. He was now a true devil. He began killing his brother's cubs one by one. More than 11 cubs died by his claws over a few months. None of his brothers tried to stop him. Perhaps they feared him, or perhaps they understood that the pain inside him could not be calmed. The Mapogo coalition shrank after Rasta's mysterious disappearance. Only 3 remained: Makalu, Pretty Boy, and Mr. T, still kings of the West. But time moved on. They were aging, their wounds accumulating. It was clear a new dawn was coming, one carried by younger, stronger lions. The end at the hands of the Saladi. Then came 2012, when another coalition emerged from the south. 4 males called the Saladis, later known as the Katos. They were in their prime, hungry for dominance and unafraid of facing legends. By February, signs of war were already clear. The confrontation was inevitable. As the Mapogos grew older, the Saladis grew stronger by the day. On March 16, 2012, the decisive moment came. In broad daylight, the Saladi coalition caught Mr. T alone. They attacked from all sides, slashing his back open with a deep wound. He fell to the ground, roaring, a cry that echoed through the savannah. He tried to fight, but one bit into his spine and broke it, leaving him paralyzed. Even then, he did not surrender. He kept growling, kept trying to rise, biting the air as if refusing to accept defeat. He fought until his last breath, even while unable to move. The rangers watching were stunned. One later said, "He died as he lived, a warrior to the very end." Legacy of blood and fire. With his death, the era of the Mapogos ended. That coalition had terrorized the reserve for years, ruled half of it, and killed more than any other in modern Sabi-Sand history. Mr. T left behind a legacy of contradiction. To some, he was a monster, a devil, a heartless killer. To others, he was a legend, an unbreakable king, a lion who wrote an unmatched saga in blood. Even today, years after his death, his name is still whispered among rangers and visitors. When they speak of lions that changed history, they say, "There once was a terrifying and majestic lion named Mr. T." This is not merely a tale of a lion. It is a story of power, blood, love, madness, and betrayal. A story reminding us that the jungle shows no mercy, that no king's throne lasts forever, but some kings are never forgotten, and Mr. T was one of them. Have you ever imagined an African paradise gleaming under a bright blue sky, adorned with clouds woven like delicate cotton? Imagine a vast ocean of grasslands shimmering in hues that dance between emerald green and golden glow as the seasons shift. But wait, do not be deceived by this beauty, for these wild lands live in a constant state of turmoil, where survival demands primal instinct and unyielding fury. At the heart of this fierce arena, two brothers rise, born to be kings. They are the cubs Tao and Banda, heirs to the great Kanika pride. They were raised among buffaloes, forged by the bitterness of losing everything, yet they always rose again with unmatched strength. So join us today on this thrilling journey, and prepare for an adventure that will capture your heart and mind. In their early days, Tao and Banda's world pulsed with warmth, their mother's rich milk, the shadows of dominant males that protected them, and the lessons of the aunt lionesses who skillfully chased away jackals. The Okavango Delta in Botswana was a royal banquet for them. Oryx, warthogs, zebras, and the star of the feast. The buffalo, the living wall, as rangers describe it. But never think of the buffalo as merely large prey. It is a strategic giant that can weigh up to 900 kilograms, capable of crushing a full-grown lion if it senses danger. Yet Kanika's lionesses turned these moving fortresses into feasts with astonishing coordination. Two lions distracted the target, others attacked from the flanks, and then a synchronized leap ended it with a precise chokehold. At 10 months old, Tao and Banda watched in awe, mimicking every move in their play as if rehearsing in slow motion. The savannah seemed endless, but every empire has its red lines. To the north lay the lands of the Gosa Pride, to the east, the territory of the Roari Hyena clan. Between them were neutral corridors that turned into open theaters for the wild. Kanika's males guarded their borders with alkaline urine and deep claw marks etched on dry tree trunks. A clear message: enjoy it while it lasts, cubs. This land will not be yours forever. In adolescence, Tao and Banda's instincts erupted like a summer storm under a blazing noon. Two shadows appeared from the eastern corridor, nomadic lions exiled from a neighboring coalition. They weren't mere wanderers. The lionesses sensed danger and stepped aside for the resident males to confront the intruders under a sun that melted the rocks at over 40 degrees Celsius. Picture the scene: manes colliding, testosterone surging, a battle of giants, 1 minute of brutal strikes and bone-crushing bites, and the fight continued until one Kanika male pinned his opponent beneath his jaws. Then, in a moment of royal mercy or arrogance, he released the defeated lion instead of ending his life. Tao and Banda watched sharply, learning their first lesson. Strength isn't always in killing, but in knowing when to strike. Weeks passed, and the brothers' eyes absorbed power with every movement. By 18 months, they had earned their first invitation to the hunts. Their mother, agile and fierce, trained them herself. She would stalk, then leap, and Tao mirrored her steps precisely. Banda hesitated, then followed. Their prey was faster, but surrender was not an option. After hours of failed attempts, they ambushed an antelope, but the warning cries of vigilant baboons exposed their plan. With every failure came learning. By age 2, Tao and Banda's fierce features took form. Their hind legs had turned into pistons ready to burst forward at 60 kilometers per hour. They stood at the threshold of their final rite, leaving the family. But fate had other plans. At dusk, the intruder who had once been spared returned, stronger, crueler, colder than ever. He confronted one of the Kanika males alone while his partner was patrolling afar. Beneath the acacia trees, a battle raged, unequal and savage. The invader, fueled by vengeance, struck with the fury of a storm. When the dust settled, the victor wore a crown taken by fang and claw. The Kanika family scattered like seeds in a wild gale, leaving behind a fallen king and conquered land. The lionesses, hearts heavy, refused to submit to the new tyrant or abandon their cubs. In the chaos, Tao and Banda fled together, but fate soon separated them from their pride, trapping them in a snare woven by the wilderness itself. From night to night, the brothers awoke to a world without guardians or borders. No buffalo feasts, no protective shadows of aunts. The savannah now offered them a single command: wander, hunt without help, follow scents carried by the wind, and stay alert, for danger lurked everywhere. Hunger, the invisible enemy, struck without mercy. On the 4th day of fasting, vultures circled the horizon, a sign of an abandoned carcass. The brothers' bellies growled like distant thunder. They approached. Tao bit first, but Banda hesitated. He smelled danger, hyenas perhaps, or worse, an older lion prowling nearby. But hunger roared louder than fear. They devoured the rotten flesh in heavy silence, chewing not just meat, but their pride. In exile, every bite is a treasure. 6 months passed like an eternity. Their ribs jutted like the ridges of barren hills. Thorn wounds healed, then tore open again with every step. But instinct led them to hidden treasure, a field rich with buffaloes swinging between mud and fresh grass. The females and calves followed a predictable path. It was a golden opportunity, yet laced with danger. Tao and Banda, still lacking experience, targeted a young calf. They crept through the grass, silent as shadows, until 20 meters away. But the mother's eye caught movement. The ambush turned into a trap. A wall of adult buffalo closed ranks and charged. The brothers retreated, but a thunderous roar shook the ground. A dominant male with a thick mane and dark limbs appeared, claiming the field. That moment taught them an instinctive lesson: never run toward a roar, and never abandon your brother. Adrenaline drove Tao to break both rules. He attacked the intruding lion with lightning fury. In a decisive instant, he survived, but bleeding heavily. The brothers fled, hiding in the brush, waiting for the right moment to rise again as kings of the savannah. November rains poured 400 millimeters of life. The savannah awoke in emerald splendor. Antelopes multiplied, warthogs dotted the horizon, and the channels overflowed. Tao and Banda, now with full manes and lean, powerful bodies, reaped the rewards of endurance. They stole from hyenas' kills, joined hunts with nearby lionesses, who, strangely enough, saw them not as threats, but perhaps as future kings. Banda excelled in the hunt. His roar shook the ground. Tao, however, discovered another weapon: charm. A lioness in heat strayed from her group, luring him with golden promise. But he forgot this land bore scars of an old rival. A thunderous roar erupted. Tao retreated just in time, realizing he had strayed far from his brother. That night, Tao did something rare for a lion. He roared for help. The echo traveled 5 kilometers, answered by Banda from the thickets. After hours of searching, their heads touched in relief. Tao had survived. They could rest, but not for long. A year passed. Time sculpted the brothers. Their manes grew darker, their muscles enviable. Their energy turned survival into ambition. The scent of females called again. They followed the trail, to 3 lionesses with cubs. The resident male was away on patrol. Perfect timing. Tao advanced, Banda close behind. But the king caught their scent and raced back. This time, he faced 2 machines of fury. The battle lasted 5 minutes. The king fell motionless. The crown of the kingdom passed to the brothers. In the weeks that followed, the lionesses led the brothers across the delta's realms, through pools of constant water, scattered forests, and open plains rich with prey. Tao stayed with the lionesses to protect them, while Banda marked territory every 300 meters, declaring their empire. At night, they roared together, their voices tearing through the savannah, proclaiming the start of a new reign. Soon, the lionesses entered heat in unison. They mated with the kings, and within 100 days, 7 healthy cubs were born. The kings lifted their crowns high and prepared for what was to come. Every hunt now mattered twice as much. Every patrol became a shield for the future. Beneath an orange sunset, Tao lay as a cub slid down his mane, playfully biting it. The other cubs danced among the lionesses. No longer were there lions without a pride, but an empire reborn. Tao and Banda were now flawless hunters, vigilant fathers, fierce guardians, true kings. And all of it was possible because, in the decisive moments, they chose to rise instead of flee. Now, take a deep breath. Imagine the scent of fresh grass mingling with warm blood of prey. The open wild where epic tales are woven from fury, love of dominance, and pure defiance, sealed by blood and crowned by rare moments of peace.